That was also came up in 2020. And then the policy are now prescribed the length of vehicle, diameter, the tires, and all those things that are required to do that. So that now we now have vehicle policy in the country. And then the quick package of air quality standards and the quick passage of the air quality standards, motor vehicle emission standards by Parliament is also recommended. I think all involved should be able to ensure. We've gone very far on this. All the drafts have been ready, and I hope this year we should have affirmation from Parliament on these regulations. Thank you very much. Questions? Where's my joker?
Thank you very much, Mr. Poe, for the nice presentation. You talked about the various standards that EPA and other agencies with the environmental protection agencies have been able to come out with. Now, through my studies, I've realized that our drivers, especially the long distance drivers, they spend a lot of time within the buses. And sometimes if you use the routes, that's by vehicles, you become very tired after the journey as a result of exposure to in-vehicle pollutants. Is there any standard pertaining to in-vehicle particulate matter or aerosols or secondary particles in Ghana?
Yeah, thank you, Doc, for the wonderful presentation. I have two quick issues. The first one has to do with the myriad of policies and regulations, and as you rightly identified, the need for a national policy to house all these regulations. And you mentioned about the fact that, you are unable to do that. So from where you sit, I wanted you to elaborate on what are the factors that are militating. And again, from where you sit, what do you think can be done to be able to move to that level where we have a one stop document that we can make reference to? I think this will go a long way to help. The other issue has to do with the overage vehicles. I was a bit taken aback when I learned that you said is able to, we are able to enforce it for the GPRTU, which is more or less the largest private road transport union. And then we are also able to do it for the STC, for the state. But I was surprised that we are able to do for the GPRTU, and yet we are not able to, get the others to also come on board, because I believe that GPRTU, with the force that they have, if anything, they are able to scatter. We know what they are able to do within the country. If they say it should be done, it is done. So this time around, I'm surprised why we have them on board, and yet we are not able to get the other bodies. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this presentation. My question is, how do you check compliance with standard? That means with this policy and regulation, how do you check compliance from inception? Thank you.
Okay, maybe I'll take this one first. Okay, the first one talks about whether we have standards for indoor air, especially in vehicles. There's no standards for indoor air in vehicles. What we know is that in vehicles, your CO levels should not exceed is it 5 or 10 milligram per meter cube per 15 minutes under WHO. So if you have a vehicle which is smoking and the exhaust is leaking and you have your glasses rolled up, then within 15 minutes, if you inhale this, you die. So it's advisable that you don't exceed these limits in them. And secondly, there are indoor guidelines that have been prescribed by WHO. We have recently, there was some on cooking, clean cook stoves. And then the Ghana Air Quality Management Plan that is being revised has also identified that. So there is also a guideline there that you can see EPA and you can get some information on that. But in terms of indoor, like in office setting and those things, we don't have any standards. And then in the manufacturing sector, in the companies, there's also no standard like that. Unlike in developed countries that they have, we don't have something like that. So, and the second question talks about the air pollution policy. Why the difficulties of implementation? You can't just get up and develop a policy. Where we're coming from, we're doing this in a piecemeal. You know, we started with the World Bank in 1998 to be able to monitor and gather information. So with that data, you can know what it is. And even air pollution was something that was not being considered in the country until the late decade or a half ago. So that became more serious, that we're taking much attention on that. So you needed information. So to try to be able to bridge the gap, we came up with what we call the environment policy in 2014. But unfortunately, the environment policy could not also capture the interest was that, yes, they identified the problems in the world associated with air pollution. Yes, there are mining that are polluting. Yes, there are industries that are polluting, but I couldn't come out with tangible roadmap that will lead to policy. That's the limitation that we have under the environment policy. And to the wisdom of the drafters of our laws in the country, it seems that any institution tends to do something about air pollution. So there's now the need to harmonize them. And I challenge the Environmental Protection Agency to be the lead institution to do that. And to do this, to also need some external support as a country. So that's why I'm trying to emphasize on this, that we need to do that, the policy. And I think this is also cutting across in most of the countries in the region, sub-region. The policy, we have started the regulations ahead of policy, you know, but it's not too late. We need to still craft a very good policy that will give a good direction to anybody coming to do something with air pollution in the country. Then there is also a question on the vehicle fleet policy, the implementation difficulties. Yes, you know, Ghana, everybody wants the government to be the champion, do everything, but the government cannot do everything. You can see Ghana cannot do everything. They started doing something, trying to give GPR some buses to use. That also has its own problem. They started with the, how do you call it, BRT system. It also had its own problem. They started with giving money, how do you call it, money to institutions to purchase this thing. The money could not come back again. They could not retrieve the money. They also came in now, they're giving some buses, helping State Transport Corporation also to do that. So it's a whole of complex situation. I think the private sector will have to come in here to be able to help reduce that. So, and then on the compliance, yes, we have the LI system to Environmental Assessment Regulations, 1999, LI system 2. This is a very strong law, regulation that the EPA uses in controlling industries for industrial emission management. Not that a lot of things. So every facility that before the start of the facility in the country, you start putting up even infrastructure, you need to conduct environmental impact assessment and come out with, identify some of these problems that we may encounter and come out with mitigation measures. And if that is approved as a management practice, then the EPA oversee that this is done. To do that. So there's a control under the industry aspect. The aspect that is a bit limiting is the transport. That is being worked on very, very rigorously through a lot of initiatives that have been done by EPA, and then a lot of actions that are being implemented by the government and that sector. And then the local government aspect too also need to be revamped. So there are compliance, there are enforcement, but the enforcement under the local government is also very weak. That's why you see people burning trashes here. But if there are punitive actions on these things, I don't think people will burn their trashes. And they also have a role to play. You see, they have to collect the waste and manage them. And the waste are not being collected. So people will be forced to burn. You see, so the government has a problem, and then the citizens also have a problem. And this problem have to be solved together. Okay, thank you.